We begin today the Gemara on Daf Kuf Vav Amud Beis, the second Mishnah towards the bottom of the Amud. So here, this Mishnah, as all the Mishnahs in this Perek, is continuing to discuss a worker in a field. Hamakabel Zaktelige Mishnah Hamakabel Sodem Mechaverei, a person that receives a field from his friend to work in it. Lazara Sa'irim, and the owner tells him to plant barley. Lo Yizrana Chitim, you should not plant wheat, because wheat is something that takes out more of the power of the soil of the field, and by planting wheat, he's weakening it. Chitim, but if he was told that he should plant wheat, then Yizrana Sa'irim, he's allowed to plant barley because it's going to take less power from the field. Now Rashi explains that this Mishnah here is talking about a person that is a chaycher, meaning he pays the owner a certain percent, a certain set amount for the work that and the produce that he gets in the field. We're not talking about a makabel, which is a oris that gives a percent of what actually grew. Over there, Rashi says it doesn't make a difference, even if it weakens the property because you didn't plant what the owner told you, but the owner derives the benefit from that. You're sharing with him exactly the percent of what grew, so therefore it doesn't matter what you planted. Rav Shimon Gamliel says that no, you have to follow exactly what the owner told you. Even if he told you to plant wheat, you still should not plant barley. Similar, Tvua, if the owner told you to plant grain, lo yisrana kitnis, do not plant beans. Kitnis, but if he told you to plant beans, yisrana tvua, you're allowed to plant grain. And it's the same idea because beans take out more energy from the ground. But Rav Shimon Gamliel again says that you have to follow exactly what the owner told you should not change. So the Gemara Rav Chisda said, "My time that Rav Shimon Gamliel." What's the explanation for what Rav Shimon Gamliel says? That either way, even if what you're planting will take less energy from the field, you shouldn't change from what the owner says. The pasuk says, "She'eris Yisrael," the remnant of Yidden. Lo yaso avla, they should not do iniquity. V'lo yidabru chazav, they should not speak falsehood. V'lo yimtze b'fiyim l'shayin tarmis, there should not be in their mouth any lies. So if the owner tells you one thing, and you make up with him that we're going to be planting wheat here, don't just decide and do something different from what he said, even if you have a reason that it's going to be even better for him. You do exactly what the owner told you. The Gemara asks on this explanation of Rav Shimon Gamliel's opinion. The Brisa says, and we had this earlier in the Masechta, Magbis Purim, if you have money that's collected, tzedakah, but it's specifically for Purim, for the Suda of Purim. Purim. So that money should only be used to give for poor people for the needs of the Suda of Purim. And when you distribute this money for the poor people, you don't have to be very exact about it to give poor people exactly what they need for the Suda, not anything extra. Give them barchava, give them in abundance what they need. But now, a poor person that gets this money for Purim, he's only allowed to use it for his needs on Purim. He's not allowed to even buy a shoelace that he needs for his shoes. Unless there was a clear condition that was made in the presence of all the people of the city that are donating this money, that the money is going to be used for other things, not only for Purim. That's what Rabbi Yaakov said in the name of Rav Meir. Rav Shimon Gamliel, Mekel. However, Rav Shimon Gamliel was actually lenient about this. Even if there was no clear condition that was made with the people of the city, nevertheless, you can change from the money that was designated for Purim to be used. The poor people could then use it for other needs as well. So the question is, we clearly see here, Rav Shimon Gamliel says that even if it was clearly made up that it's going to be used for Purim, you could go and use it for other needs of the poor people. So how does Rav Shimon Gamliel here in our Mishnah say that if the owner tells you plant wheat, you should not switch to barley, even though it's easier for the field to produce the barley, because you're not allowed to switch of anything that the owner told you? So therefore Abaye says that a completely different explanation for what Rav Shimon Gamliel said in our Mishnah. The reason of what Rav Shimon said in our Mishnah is Kedemar, like what the master has said. This refers to Rabba, the teacher of Abaye and Rabba. The Omar, Rabba said, Haiman de Nichale, the Titverare, a person that wants that his field should end up being empty, meaning it should not produce well the produce. Lizrei shata chiti, so plant 1 year wheat, v'shata sa'ari, and then another year plant barley. Or shata shasi, v'shata erev, if you plant in the field 1 year, the rows of what you plant go from Mizrach to Ma'ariv, and another year you plant and you set up the rows in the opposite direction or in a different direction, going from Tzafin to Darim. So then what's going to happen is the field gets ruined by this, and that's going to cause that afterwards when you try to plant in the field, it's not going to produce properly. So the point that the Gemara is saying over here is, Shimon Gamliel says, if the owner told you to plant chitim, you can't say, if he told me to plant wheat that takes so much energy out of the field, for sure I could plant barley that takes less energy. You can't say that because you don't know what was planted the year before. Maybe the owner is telling you specifically to plant wheat because the year before he planted wheat and he doesn't want you now to plant barley, which is going to now ruin the property as we see here. So therefore, that Rav Shimon Gamliel says this is the basis, this is the reason why you're not allowed to switch from what the field has in it. It's interesting because Taisvis here says the exact opposite pshat from Rashi. Taisvis says that when it says in the Gemara, Taisvis says it actually means a person that wants his field to become very strong and to produce very well. So then what you should do is 1 year wheat, 1 year barley. That's actually the way people alternate between the two, and that actually makes the property even stronger. So over here, when the owner told you to plant wheat, maybe the year before he actually planted barley, so he wants you dafka to plant the wheat to make the property stronger. Now the Gemara concludes regarding Rav Shimon Gamliel's opinion, this, that you're not allowed to plant different than what the owner told you, that's only if you didn't plow and then repeat again, which means that you can plow after harvest, and then before the next season when you begin to plant, you plow a second time. Only if you didn't plow twice, then this is not allowed. But if you plowed after the harvest and then you plow a second time before you plant, then less lamba, because you plow twice, the property will not be affected negatively by planting something different than what the owner told you.
Excuse me, do anything know about anything lengthwise versus crosswise?
Yeah. When you set up the rows in different directions, whether going from Mizrach to Ma'ariv or Tzofim to Darim, when you set it up in different directions according to Rashi's Pshat, that ruins the nature of the property. So the Mishnah said if you were told to plant grain and instead you plant beans, so then you're taking out more energy from the field than the owner allowed. So it says the Gemara like this: Masni le Rav Yehuda le Ravin. Rav Yehuda, so he taught to Ravin that tvua yizre'ena kitnis. If you were told that you should plant tvua, you could, and sure you could plant over there beans. The opposite of the version that we have in our Mishnah. Amalei, so he asked him, but for Ha'anantanan, in our Mishnah the version is tvua lo yizre'ena kitnis. If you were told to plant grain, you should not plant beans. Amalei, so he answered him like kasha. It's not a question. Lon. Here, where I taught that even if you were told to plant grain, you could plant beans, and there's no concern that it's going to ruin the property, that's because of it's here, for us in Bavel. So Rashi says here in Bavel, there was a lot more water, the land was very moist, and then even if you plant beans that take out more energy from the ground, it's not going to ruin the ground, because it's very moist anyways. And the Mishnah, the version that we have, that you shouldn't switch from what the owner says, is over there in Eretz Yisrael, where the lands are on hills and there's not much water as it is in Bavel. Over here it's drier, so you have to be careful exactly how much energy you take out of the field. Amalei Rav Yehuda Ravin bar Rav Nachman. So Rav Yehuda said here, the Gemara is going to bring different statements and things that Rav Yehuda said to Ravin bar Rav Nachman. Ravin Achi. So he said to him, Ravin, my brother, Hani Tachli, the Bei Kisna, the cress that grows between the flax, if you take it out, if you pull it out, there's no isser of stealing here. And the reason is because while it's growing between the flax, what it does is it destroys, it ruins the quality of the flax. So you removing it is not gzeila adarabi. You're sort of doing a favor for the owner by removing it from there. But if it's not mamish between the flax, but it's on the borders, it's surrounding the flax, so then if you take it out, it's gzeila. It's not because it's something which the owner wants, and it's not ruining the flax that grows there. If this cress was there very long enough that it became hard and ripe, that it has ripe seeds in it that you can plant, then even what grows between the flax itself, you're not allowed to remove it, because at this point you're not going to help the flax by removing it. My time, what's the reason? My dafsid. Whatever it ruined the quality of the flax by growing between the flax, it's already over. It says by you removing it now, you're not getting anything, so you're not allowed to steal it. Another thing, Amalei Rav Yehuda Ravin bar Rav Nachman. Rav Yehuda says to Ravin bar Rav Nachman, Ravin Achi, Ravin my brother. Hani Dili, there are some trees that are in my property, but Dilach. These really, the fruits of this tree really belong to you. And what the Gemara is talking about over here is that it seems like the tree is positioned in my property, but really all of the roots of the trees are taking its nourishment from your property. So therefore all the fruits of this tree really belong to you. And v'dilach, there could be trees that are on your property, but really dili, they really belong to me because the roots of this tree are in my property. And this was the nog b'nei Metzia, the custom or the way people would do regarding trees that grow on the border. Ilon hanaita lekan, a tree where the roots are going in one direction, they all take their nourishment from one direction, lekan. So all the fruits belong to the person that lives there in that field. V'hanaita lekan, and the tree that's right on the border, but the roots are going to the other direction, lekan. So all the fruits belong to the one that the roots are in his property. And here the Gemara actually brings a machlokes about this. The Itmar, we learned the machlokes, Ilan ha'omed ala metzar, a tree that's positioned right on the border. So Rav says, Hanoita lekan, lekan. The tree that the roots are going to one direction, so all the fruits belongs to that individual and that side. Hanoita lekan, lekan. And the tree that the roots are going to the other direction belongs to the other person on the other side. That's Rashi's pshat that we're talking about over here, a tree that is sort of in the middle, and you have to look where the roots are going. Taisus learns differently. Naita lekana lekana over here means that the roots are going in both directions, and you have to see where if you have the roots are going to both directions, so you have to see where the branches actually and the fruits are. And the ones that where the branches and the fruits are hanging over into his property, he's the one that gets the fruits because the roots are actually going in both directions. That's Taisus' pshat. But Rashi learns, like we said before, that we're talking about, you look at the roots. Whoever the roots are going into his field, that's the one that gets the fruits. Shmuel says, Cholke. In such a case, a tree that's right on the border, you don't follow the roots, you split the tree, you split the fruits between the two of them. Meisvei, so the Gemara asks from a Braisa, it clearly says, Ilon, ha'imid, alametzet, a tree that's sitting on the property or standing on the property, yachloiko. So you divide it between them, exactly like Shmuel said. Yoftu de Rav. This refutes what Rav says, that you follow where the roots are going. Tergim Shmuel, aliba de Rav. Shmuel explained that according to Rav, that it's not a question on Rav's opinion, b'mamala kol ha'metzah kuloi. That this is a tree that is taking up the whole entire border, and really the roots are not going in one direction. The roots, it's right on the border, and the roots go in both directions. So here, even Rav would agree that you split the fruits of this tree. If that's the case, the Braisa is speaking about a tree that's right on the border itself and the roots go in both directions, it's obvious that you have to split it between the two of them. What's the chiddush here? And says the Gemara, the tali tune l'chad gisa. The branches with all the fruits are hanging over onto one side. So it's still telling you that nevertheless you split the tree. So the Gemara still questions this vakati ma'ila memre. Still, what's the chiddush of this? You should follow the roots that takes their nourishment from the property. So it doesn't matter where the actual branches are hanging over. You should. So over here, if the roots are going in both directions, it still is obvious that you should split them. It's the Gemara normal the tema, because I would think to say because the person that has the fruits that hang over to his side says to the other person that's his neighbor, let's split the tree straight across in the middle. And if you're going to split the tree straight across in the middle, most of the branches of the trees that's hanging over to my property are going to end up to be mine, if you split it that way. Kamash Malon, that's what this Braisa is saying, that no, it doesn't work that way. Damalei, because his neighbor can say to him, my chaz is the palkasachi, why are you splitting it down this way? Ploi hachi, split it down the width. Since the roots are going into both properties, so therefore really we both have a right to half of the tree, instead of splitting it this way where most of the branches are on your property, split it the opposite way where it's going to actually be straight down in the middle. Another thing, Amalei Rav Yehuda leRavim bar Rav Nachman. Rav Yehuda said to Ravim bar Rav Nachman, Ravim Achi, Ravim my brother, Lo tazben ara de smicha lemasa. Don't buy a property that's right near the city. So in those times, it was the city, and then right outside the city is where you had a big valley where everyone had their fields, the grain fields where they would grow the food. So he says, don't buy a field that's right near the city. Why not? Because the Omer Abavo, Omer Avhune, Omer Rav, a person should not stand and be there when a person's field is full of the grain that's standing, growing in the property, because of ayin hara. If you stand there and you gaze and you look at a person's property, and it could be looking with a bad eye, with a jealous eye, and that could bring opposite of a blessing into your friend's property. So if you're going to buy your field so close to the city, and all the people there right in the city can stand and look at your property, it can bring an ayin hara to your property. So buy further out. Your field should be further out so you won't have ayin hara. Fragt the Gemara, is this true that Rav said this? Rav encountered the students of Rav, and Amalu, and he asked his students, "My Amar Rav v'hani kroi." How did Rav translate these psukim here? When it says the brachas in Parshas Kisava, it says, Barach ata ba'ir, you're blessed in the city, or Barach ata basada, you're blessed in the field, Barach ata b'vayecha, you're blessed when you enter, Barach ata b'tzisecha, you're blessed when you go out. What are all these brachas? What are the psukim referring to? Va'amrilei, and the students of Rav told Rababe, Hachi Amar Rav. This is how Rav interprets these psukim. Baruch ata be'ir, when it says you're blessed in this city, what this means is sheyehei beischa samoch lebeis hakneses. A blessing of a person in a city is when he has his house right near a shul. So if you live near a shul, so you have the shechina which dwells in the shul, and your house is right near where the shechina is. Baruch ata basada, you're blessed in the field. What this means is sheyiyu nechasecha kroivim leir, that your possessions, which means your fields, should be right near the city, so you shouldn't have to go so far out. It's from this point that the Gemara is asking, that here you see that Rav says that it's okay for your fields to be right near the city, and we're not concerned about the Ayin Hara. Then he continued and said, Rav explained, Baruch ata bivayecha, that you're blessed when you enter. What this means is, shletimtza ishtucha safik nida b'shas b'yascha min haderech. If a person is coming from a long way and he comes home, he shouldn't find his wife to be a safik nida, and that will be very difficult for him. That's the bracha, that he should come home to a wife that's mutter to him. Some Rishonim say that it says here Safik Nida because this also means that it'll be harder for the person to be careful. Because if it's a Safik Nida, he might have heter to himself, and therefore this could end up leading to an Isser. Barach ata b'tzeisecha, that you're blessed when you go out. What this means is Shiyu tzetzoi meyecha kameischa, that your children should be like you, that they should be, in other places Rashi says, this means they should be smart like you, they should be rich like you, they should follow and go on your path. That's the way Rav darshan these psukim. Omar Lahu, and Rab Abba told Rav students, Rab Yechanan lo yamahachi. Rab Yechanan did not darshan this way, he darshan differently. Ella, rather he said, Baruch ata be'ir, what does it mean that you're blessed in this city? Sheyehei beis hakisei samach l'shulchanecha, that you should have a place, a beis hakisei, to relieve yourself right near your home, where your table and where you eat. In those times, they have an outhouse to go far away. But if a person has a place near his place where he eats to relieve himself, that's a special bracha. Aval beis hakneses loy. The drasha that Rav said you should have a shul right near your house. That's actually not a bracha. And the reason is Rabbi Yechanan l'taimei. Rabbi Yechanan follows his opinion elsewhere. The Omar Rabbi Yechanan said schar psius yesh. When a shul is further from your house. So even though the shechina is not right near your right near your house, but nevertheless, on the other hand, you have the reward of the fact that you have to walk to a shul. That in itself is a big schar. The Gemara brings a story in Saita where there was a woman that the Gemara there said that an almana that came from a further place to his shul, and he asked her, "You don't have a shul where you daven?" She says, "No, schar psis." She wants to have the schar that she walks to shul. Now, when it says Baruch ata basada, what this means is sheyu nechasecha mishuloshin, that the blessing of a person's field is that his fields are divided into three. Shlish betua, a third is grain, shlish bezeisim, a third olive trees, and shlish bikfanim, and a shlish, and a third vineyard. So that if one doesn't grow properly, the other grows. If you have all of your properties all in the same thing, so then if it doesn't grow well, so then you lose everything that season. So you divide it in three different things, so then you'll have something that will grow. Baruch ata b'vayecha, or Baruch ata b'tzisecha, you're blessed when you enter and you're blessed when you go out. What this means is, Shitehei yitziyascha min ha'olam ki b'yascha la'olam. When you leave this world, you should be like when you came into this world. Ma b'yascha la'olam b'loi chet, just like you came into the world without any aveda. Af yitziyascha min ha'olam b'loi chet. You should leave this world without an aveda as well. Which obviously also means that when you leave this world without a chet, you're actually on a much higher level than when you came into the world, because you have to overcome so many nisyanis, and this brought out such a greater koyach of your Avodas Hashem in the world, so you're on a much higher level than when you came into the world. Okay, so the Gemara's question here was from Rav. Is Rav concerned about an ayin hara when you have a field that's right near the city or not? So the Gemara says, Loi kasha, there's no contradiction about this. Ha, the mahadele shura v'raska. If the field that you have right near the city is surrounded with a wall, and on top of the wall, there's also an additional blockage that's built with whatever on top of the wall. You additionally build wood or things that can block anybody from being able to see into your field. How do they touch it, Raska?
Hedge, maybe?
hedges on top of your wall, good. So then there's no issue of ayin hara. But if you have your field right near the city and you don't have a wall, you don't have hedges blocking people from seeing, then Rav held ayin hara is an issue. Another thing where Rav said that there's a source for ayin hara, Hashem should remove from you all illnesses. What does this refer to? This is a bad eye that can bring all illnesses. And here the Gemara brings a very interesting thing. Rav l'taimei, what Rav said here follows Rav's reasoning elsewhere. The Rav solik lebei kivri. Once Rav was in a Beis HaKvaris, Avad my David, and he did there in the Beis HaKvaris what he did. Rashi says that he said a lachash that gave him the power to be able to see regarding all the people buried there what caused their death. And Omar, and after that he said, Tishin v'tisha ba'ayin ra. 99% passed away with ayin hara that caused their death. Ve'echad b'derech eretz. And only one out of them passed away just naturally, a natural death. That's how powerful Rav held ayin hara is. Shmuel Amar, Shmuel says a different pshat regarding kol chayli. What's the sickness? Shmuel says zeh haruach. This is the wind that is the cause of all sickness. Shmuel l'taimei, what Shmuel says here follows his reasoning that he said, Da'ama Shmuel hakoil beruach. Everything, all different things, injuries and illnesses that a person suffers, is all because of the wind that causes this to deteriorate. In fact, the Gemara, or the Shmuel, but even according to Shmuel, ha'ika haruge malchus, there are people that die because with a sword, in a war, that they're being killed by a sword. So how could you say that it's all by the wind? So Shmuel says, actually, no, hanach nami. Even those people that were attacked by a sword, ilav zika, if not for the fact that there's a wind that affects them badly, avduluhu sama v'chaya. You would be able to treat them with medicine, and they would be able to recover from their injuries and they would live. It's only because of the wind that doesn't allow them to heal properly. Rab Chanina says the third pshat, what it says, that Hashem will remove from you all chayli, all sickness, zu tzina. This is the cold that brings a person sickness. Rab Chanina said, akoil b'dei shamayim, everything is in the hands of heaven. When a person gets ill, chutz mitzinim pachim. Besides the cold that a person has to be careful from, the cold that blows, pachim of here means that the cold air that blows on a person, that's something in your hands to be careful with. When you have cold that blows and a person goes in a crooked way, so a person that wants to be careful with his health, he should stay far from this. So here the pasuk is saying, even though Rab Chanina here says this is something that a person himself has to be careful with, but the pasuk is saying that Hashem will remove the source of this cold, that you won't have to even be careful, you won't have any cold. Another pshat, Rabbi Yossi bar Chanina Amar zu tsoya. This refers to the tsoya that there is in whether the mucus in a person's nose or the earwax. The Amar, because Rabbi Yossi bar Chanina said, tsoya sachaitim, v'tsoya sa'oizen, the mucus in the nose and the earwax, ruban kasha, that if it's too much, it's not good for the person. Umiyutan yafe, if it's just a little bit, that's good, that's healthy, that's good for the person. Another pshat, what the chayli, the pasuk here is talking about, that Hashem says will remove the illness of a person, zumara. This refers to the gallbladder that can cause problems for the person. The gall health, that's also something that if it's not taken care of properly, the food that you eat, that could cause all illnesses in the body. Tanya nami yachez, we learned this in the Braisa as well. Machla, when it says in another pasuk that Hashem will remove, the pasuk there is that Vaisiresi Machla Mikirbecha Zu Mara. Machla refers to Mara, the gallbladder. V'lama nikra shma Machla Shehi Machla Kol Gufei Shalodam. It can bring illness to the entire body of the person. Dover Acher, another pshat in the term of Machla. So it's the gematria of Machla is 83. Sheshmeina Ushloishim Chaloim Tluyim B'Mara. There are 83 illnesses that come from the gallbladder. And v'kulon, and for all of these illnesses, what's the prevention for this? Pas shachris b'melach, eating bread with salt in the morning, the kitten shalmayim, and the jug of water mivatlosan, gets rid of the illnesses that come from the gallbladder. Rashi here actually interestingly says that when it says kitten shalmayim, this is just for someone that doesn't have wine. It's even better actually to drink wine in the morning. If you don't have wine, so then it should be water. Interesting. Now regarding this, the value of eating a breakfast in the morning, pas shachris, Yud. So we learned in the Braisa Yud Gimel Dvarim Nemre B'Pas Shachris. 13 different things were said about the value of eating breakfast in the morning. Matzeles menachama. It saves a person from the bad effects from the sun. Uminatzina, and also from the bad effects from cold. Uminazikin, from the winds that were mentioned before. Uminamazikin, and also from the mazikin, referring to shadim. Umichkim aspesi, and also from foolish, sounds like a bad mood that a person can be in. When a person eats in the morning, so he calms down. V'zeiche bedin, and he could also be meritorious in a court case. He'll have the ability to be able to give over his arguments properly. And also lilmoid the Torah. He'll have the energy to learn Torah, or lulamed, and also to teach Torah. Udvarav nishmain, and his words will be heard when he has conversations with people and he wants to talk. His point will get through. V'talmudei miskayim b'yadai, and the Torah that he learns will be retained within him. And ve'ein b'sarei ma'ila havel, and his flesh will not sweat. And v'niskak le'ishtoi, and then he'll be able to have relations with his wife in the morning. Ve'ein misavel isha acheres, and he won't have any desires for any other woman out in the street. And v'hoireges kina shebibnei mayim, and also eating breakfast will get rid of kina, lice that could be in the intestines of the person. And another benefit, v'yeshaim, some say, af moitzias akina, it removes any jealousy within a person. Umachnis es ha'ava. When you eat in the morning, it brings in love into the person. You could have a good, lovely day. Okay, so you see here how important it is to eat pas shachris, breakfast in the morning. Amalei Rabba Bar Mari, Rabba said to Rabba Bar Mari, Minoa Milsa Domri Inchi, what is the source of this that people say also regarding the value of eating pas shachris? Shitten rihiti rahot, 60 people run, and they can't reach the person that he did eat breakfast in the morning. They can't reach him. They didn't, and he did. They can't reach him because he ate in the morning. The Rabbanan say, Hashkim ve'achol b'kayitz. Get up early in the morning in the summer and you eat and to protect you from the bad effects of the sun, and in the winter from the bad effects of the cold. So what's the source of this saying that people say? Amalei, so you answer in the Chsiv, the Pasuk says, Lo yiravo v'lo yitzmo, you shouldn't be hungry, you shouldn't be thirsty. And then, if you're not going to be hungry and thirsty, Lo yakim sherev v'shemesh, so the heat and the sun will not affect you. And so the Taiches, Lo yakim sherev v'shemesh, kim lo yirav v'lo yitzmo. If you're not hungry, you're not thirsty, you eat properly, so then the sun, the heat will not affect you. So Amalei, so Rav Bar Mari said to Rabbi, At omrit li mahasam, you're bringing me the source from there, from that Pasuk. I'll bring you a pasuk in Chumash where you have a source, because the pasuk says, you serve Hashem, and Hashem will bench your bread and your water. What does the pasuk mean? That you serve the Eibishter. What does that mean? That's when you say Shema and daven in the morning. And then after you daven, so then you have the bread and water in the morning. Zu pas b'melach, eating bread with salt, the kitin shomayim, and a jug of water. And then mikam ve'elech, what does the pasuk say after this? Vasiroisi machla mikrbecha. I'll remove any illness from within you. So here you see the power of eating pas shachris in the morning, that the Eibishter takes away all illnesses. Okay, the Gemara continues here also from Rabbi Yehuda, a different statement. Rabbi Yehuda said a completely new opinion. We'll see him at Hashem continuation.